Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you being here, taking time out of the middle of your day on a Friday afternoon in the beginning of this new year, 2018, to come and not only listen, not only learn, but also to help other people listen and learn about a very important issue that affects all of us here, not just on the Central Coast, not just in California, but I believe throughout our country. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the mayor. Where is he? Where's the mayor? There he is. Thank you, Mayor Hurst. Councilmember Rios, other council members and electeds who are here. Glenn Schaller, appreciate your participation here. Sorry if I missed anybody. All of the temporary protected status recipients who are here from El Salvador, their family, their friends, our neighbors, everybody who is here to make other people aware of this important issue. The issue is that on March 9th of this year, 2018, the semi-annual renewal for temporary protected status for Salvadorans will be announced. Now, per that temporary protected status TPS law, the administration must give 60 days advanced notice. So that means on Monday, January 8th, the administration will make an announcement as to whether or not it will continue the TPS status in March. And so that is why we are here today. We are here today to make sure that the administration and President Trump and the Department of Homeland Security understand that they must renew. We are calling on them to renew the temporary protected status for the over 200,000 recipients from El Salvador of TPS that are living in the United States of America, including 46,000 that live here in California, and that includes the very large community right here on the Central Coast of California. We need you to tell people, to tell the administration about how important our TPS recipients from El Salvador are, not just to our community, but to our country. These are people who have lived in the United States for the past 17 years continuously. These are people who were affected back on January 13th of 2001 by a catastrophic major earthquake that took place in El Salvador. 7.8 magnitude earthquake with over 3,000 aftershocks that absolutely devastated that country. It created a huge death toll where over 1,000 were dead and 8,000 were injured. The devastation was widespread. 2/3 of the 260 municipalities in El Salvador were devastated. And that earthquake destroyed all sorts of infrastructure of that country. Transportation, housing, education, healthcare, the judiciary, businesses were wiped out. And as a result of that earthquake, the United States government, under President George W. Bush, a Republican, as we know, allowed Salvadorans here in the United States to apply for temporary protected status. This is where that law comes from. A 1990 law that was actually signed into law by President George W. Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, that basically says that we will exempt foreigners from deportation after the executive branch determines that there's either a natural disaster or a human conflict which makes the country too unstable or too unsafe to return to. And let me tell you, after 2001, El Salvador was too unstable and it has been too unsafe to return to. After the earthquake, unfortunately, the resources were not there to help improve that infrastructure. As many of you know, this has been detailed in a film produced by one of our local activists and local supporters, Les Gardner, that demonstrated how devastating that earthquake was. For 17 years, unfortunately, that country still has not improved in order to end that designation of TPS. It's been further burdened by the constant natural disasters that have hit El Salvador over these years. Storms, flooding, volcanic activity, even a severe drought that has caused widespread malnutrition and plagues rural and remote areas. And because of that instability caused by those natural disasters, it's contributed to recent man-made conflicts. Unfortunately, El Salvador has been ravaged by drug cartels and street gangs. And it's contributed to that country having the highest concentration of gang members in the world. It's contributed to an extremely high violent crime rates and has also led to that country having the highest homicide rates in the world at times. Clearly, El Salvador may be Central America's smallest country, but it does have a large amount of problems. Disaster, dysfunction, and dangers still exist, and that is why TPS has not only continually been extended for those here in the United States, it must continue to be extended today. Now let me tell you, although people here in this country, in this community, have been granted this TPS status, it's not an easy thing to have. It's not easy to keep. You have to reapply every 18 months. There's stringent background checks they have to undergo. You can't have any felonies. You can't have 2 or more misdemeanors. You have to be deemed not to be a national security threat. But let me tell you, for the people who are here, as we know, that's easy. That's easy. Because the people who we've seen in this community from El Salvador don't just work to stay here. They work to contribute to this country. They have been, and I can't think of a better word than this, they are embedded in our community. They're not just a part of it, they're embedded in this community. They're employees. And not just your standard employees, but that long-time employee that is so vital to employers. They have become employers and started their own businesses. And yes, as we know and as we look around here today, they have started their own families. 200,000 Salvadorans in this country lost documentation status and were deported. It would have a ripple effect, not just on our community, it'd have a huge effect on our country. 88% of the Salvadorans who are here in this country have jobs. 1/3 own homes. 60% have children that are U.S.-born citizens. It would clearly affect their families, our friends, our neighbors. Because of that separation, it would affect those families by sending people back to a place that is dangerous and that many of them don't know. Today, we call on the Trump administration to not turn their backs on these people, on Salvadorans, that not just live here in the United States. They are embedded in our communities, and they have contributed to this country in countless ways. And so we are here today, all of you are here today, to stand shoulder to shoulder with not just El Salvadorans, but with people who are our neighbors, who are our friends, and who are our family members. And that is why I am honored to have with me recipients of temporary protected status from El Salvador who are going to tell you their stories. And to introduce them, I'm honored to have Councilman Rios, former mayor of Watsonville, former activist, current activist, sorry, and someone who's been so important, not just to the people of El Salvador, not just to the El Salvadoran community here, but to our community on the Central Coast. And I want to introduce to you Councilman Oscar Rios.
Buenas tardes. Me da un gran gusto de verlos a todos ustedes aquí. Y muchísimas gracias a la congresista Jimmy Panetta por lo detallado que él ha dicho y lo ha puesto, todo concreto, él lo puso todo como se debe ser. Y no voy a meter en los detalles, porque yo creo que él ya dijo todo lo que esto es y de qué se trata. Pero antes que continúe, pues sí, también quiero reconocer, aquí tenemos al alcalde anterior y concejal, a Felipe, por favor, Hernández. Y también nuestro administrador de la ciudad, Charles Montoya, que está atrás. Y tenemos también a Jenny Cervete, de Planning Commissioner, que está por aquí también. Muchas gracias. I'm not going to go back and get in. I think that the congressman really laid out what this is about. He put it right straight, that this is a call to justice. It's a call to the administration of Trump to stop using immigrants, and especially this particular group that fall under this Protection Act, because of all the circumstances that was set and put out by the congressman. Pero más importante que todo para nosotros, yo creo que es que tenemos que agarrar el apoyo de la comunidad. Tenemos que decir a la gente que no está justo lo que quiere hacer este presidente, de utilizar a la gente que está haciendo más, a la gente que ha crecido raíces acá, a la gente que ya está trabajando, que tiene familia, que todo lo ha hecho ya por las circunstancias que pasaron en nuestros países. Y para hoy decir y utilizar a este grupo de personas que están contribuyendo a la economía de Estados Unidos y quitarles el permiso, eso es lo injusto. Y eso es lo que tenemos que poner a la gente. Que the injustice that is being done, if this protection is taken away, that's what we have to tell people. That's what we have to call on the administration of Trump to stop using the immigrants as an excuse. Because that's what he's doing. He's using, and he started his election from the beginning using the immigrants to divide us. And that's what he's continuing to do. All the reasons that were laid out, and very clearly why you have the status has been said already. But I think it's up to us today to really push forward and to really let everybody knows that we need their support, that we need to tell this administration to not only stand it, but also grant the path to legalization, residency, and eventually to citizenship. So with that, I want to introduce some other folks, and then we're also going to hear some testimonies. I want to bring forward one of our immigrant and legal service supporters, attorneys that has been out here on every step that we've been dealing with the issue of immigrants and immigration. And they're doing tremendous work from the County of Immigration Project, Dowd Keegan.
Thank you to Congressman Panetta for supporting Salvadoran families in our community and promoting the TPS program. The Immigration Project of the Community Action Board, along with other nonprofit law offices here in our community, have been supporting the families that we are focused on today by providing legal assistance needed to apply and renew their TPS since it began, this latest TPS for El Salvador, since 2001. Given the language and literacy barriers, it is essential that immigrants have competent and culturally sensitive legal services, such as those that we at the Immigration Project, as well as Catholic Charities, the UFW Foundation, and other nonprofits provide. And we have supported our Salvadoran community these past 18 years or so by helping them to get through the process so they can successfully receive their TPS. And now that is under threat. We are under the threat that this latest administration will take away that protection from our Salvadoran community. I wanted to use this opportunity to highlight 2 points that have not gotten a lot of coverage or distribution. And first of all, I want to let all of those who are currently eligible to renew their TPS status that a fee waiver is available. Oftentimes, the cost of renewing their TPS has been an obstacle for families. $495 every 18 months can add up. And so I want people to know that TPS is one of the programs that does allow a fee waiver. So, and as well for Hondureños who are currently able to renew their status at least for 6 months, I hope the word will spread that they can, if their income is limited or if they're receiving a public benefit such as CalFresh food stamps, that they can qualify for a fee waiver. The other thing I want to use this opportunity for is to let everyone know who is receiving TPS that there is a federal court decision which has said that you can apply for residency if you are eligible otherwise for an adjustment of status, meaning you are married to a U.S. citizen or you have a U.S. citizen child over the age of 21. And yes, we do have many families that qualify and perhaps don't know about that pathway to residency. A federal court decision has said, for as long as it is the law of the Ninth Circuit, where we are, that they can qualify for legal residency. So please, anyone who might possibly be eligible, consult our office, the Immigration Project here in Watsonville, any of the other nonprofits that are here in our community, because we want to help you not only to renew, but perhaps be able to move on to legal residency as well. Thank you for the time to be here.
Thank you very much. That is really, really good information. Mucha información que nos dio ahorita él, que debemos de todos estar al día, de que sí hay maneras como uno puede procesar y cómo uno puede legalizarse. Y eso es lo que estaba hablando de él ahorita, que es muy importante que ustedes también, los que puedan aplicar para eso, lo puedan hacer si tienen familias que son ya aquí residentes y son ciudadanas. Y si ustedes tienen familias, es lo que estaba diciendo en corto, pero hay más. Bueno, ahora pues I want to introduce you to two members of this community that will be affected with this change. First, I want to bring forward Nelson Meloreño. Perdón si estoy mencionando su nombre incorrecto, pero quiero introducirlo a Nelson y él nos va a hablar un poco sobre su historia. Por favor.
How you doing, everybody? I just wanna say thank you to Mr. Panetta, to give us the chance to talk to the public about our program, what we have reached, because, we have in this program, TPS program. I want to say congratulations to all the TPS recipients, because, you made it, it's difficult to be in this program. You had to be almost a perfect citizen, because you cannot commit a crime, because if you do, you're going to lose that program. And in my case, without this program, I was able to go to college. I got a degree. I'm working in the city of Capitola. I'm the building inspector, plans examiner. I'm in charge of all the building department right now. So if and I'm currently going to college and trying to get an engineering degree. So that's something that wouldn't happen without having the TPS program. And if you take that program away from us, in my case, I won't be able to go, keep working and provide for my family. I won't be able to go to college and get a better life for my family. But I don't think that's nothing compared to what our children are gonna, suffer. We had to decide and what we had to do. If we had to go to El Salvador, or in my case, I had to leave my kids because they're so close to being in college. One is in college. So I had to say, they're gonna have a better life if they stay here and go to college. But they're gonna lose their family, their mother and their father, because if we lose this program, and that's the main issue here. our children, and they're going to lose their fathers. And I think that's all I have to say about that.
Muchas gracias. Ahora quiero introducirles también a Tomás Escobar y quiero también reconocer que aquí hay varios del Comité Salvadoreño. Por favor, se pueden levantar, por favor, todos los que son de parte del comité, por favor. This is part of the committee of the Salvadoreño community. Y también les afecta a los que se pueden, por favor, levantarse, por favor. Those also they're going to be affected by Bueno, ahora les voy a introducir pues aquí a Tomás Escobar, por favor. Y él va a hablar en español y voy a traducirlo yo. Okay. Parece que te lo apagas así.
Buenas tardes a todos. Gracias a mi Panetta por darnos la oportunidad de expresarnos. Y gracias a los de aquí de Watsonville por traernos también. Mi nombre es Tomás Escobar. Soy parte del Comité Salvadoreño
I am part of the committee of the Salvadorian Committee.
en el condado de Santa Cruz. También soy entrenador de fútbol voluntario.
I'm also a volunteer of a training for football.
Dono 6 horas a la semana.
I donate 6 hours a week.
También emigré como los que estamos aquí.
I migrated like a lot of us.
Vine a este país en 1998.
I came in 98.
En el 2001
In 2001,
tomamos la protección temporal de TPS,
is when we acquired the temporary status,
el cual nos dio la oportunidad de poder aplicar por una licencia de conducir.
it gave us the opportunity to acquire a license to drive
Poder abrir una cuenta de banco.
and also open a bank account.
Antes de eso,
Before that,
en mi caso, era completamente una persona indocumentada, sin ningún privilegio de abrir una cuenta de banco.
in my case, I was an undocumented without being able to open an account, bank account.
So, después de 17 años con el TPS,
After 17 years with TPS,
en mi caso, tengo mi propio negocio, soy dueño de mi propio negocio.
in my case, I'm a small business owner. I have my own business.
También soy dueño de mi propiedad.
I'm also an owner of my property.
So, también tengo mi hija en el colegio, la cual es una persona que está beneficiada por DACA.
I also
Por DACA.
have my daughter in the college. She's a beneficiary of DACA.
Voy a hablar por mi familia.
I'm going to talk about my family.
So, mi esposa, bueno, está ahí.
My wife is here.
Ella tiene TPS también.
She's also TPS.
Mi hija mayor tiene DACA.
My older daughter is DACA.
Y mi hija menor, la cual está allá,
And my small daughter,
ella es ciudadana americana.
she's a U.S. citizen.
Mis hijas serían las más afectadas al cortar nuestro TPS.
My daughters will be the ones to be more affected if the TPS is cut.
Primero porque este es el único país que ellas conocen.
Because this is the only country that they know.
So, y gracias especialmente a Jimmy por tomarnos en cuenta para esto.
And thank
Lo
you,
cual,
Mr. Congressman, for taking us into account.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Podemos ver el efecto que va a tener. I think esos testimonios nos han dicho. So more than anything, the testimonies have been really said it to us. Okay, what effects it's going to be. Okay, so we're going to come back with a congressman, please.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar, I appreciate that. Before we close out here, just let me mention a few other electeds that came in. Supervisor Greg Caput is here. Councilman Jimmy Dutra also walked in. As well as Hartnell College trustee and local girl who grew up here, Erica Padilla Chavez. Oh, I'm sorry, and Trina Kaufman Gomez. I didn't see her walk in. I apologize for not mentioning other electeds who were here, but thank you Thank you very much. I cannot express our appreciation. And also, I think all of us should thank Nelson, Thomas, Doug, for basically being a part of this community and working so hard. I like what Nelson said, and it's true. You have a group of people who are almost perfect citizens. That's what we are dealing with. And unfortunately, we understand that there is a lot of rhetoric coming out of Washington, D.C., coming out of the White House, that looks at these people as political pawns. And this is not about politics, is what we need to understand. This is about people. And that is exactly why I wanted you to hear from people in our community who are recipients of the temporary protected status, that are perfect citizens, that deserve to stay here, not just because of the horrible situation in El Salvador, but because of what they have done here in our community. And so that is why in Congress we will continue to fight for people like Thomas and Nelson and their family members to make sure that they are allowed to continue to stay here and continue to contribute here. That is why, despite what happens on Monday, this fight will go on. And we have called upon President Trump, we have called upon the DHS Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, to renew the TPS for Salvadorans. It is why I have co-sponsored the American Promise Act, legislation that creates a pathway to a permanent and lawful residency for individuals who are currently receiving TPS. And it is why I intend to visit El Salvador this year, if my schedule allows, legislative schedule allows, so that I can see firsthand people in El Salvador, the devastation that's going on in that country. And it is why not only are we holding this press conference, but subsequent we are having a roundtable with members of who are receiving TPS, not only for you to see, so that I can see as their representative and take this evidence back to Washington, D.C. I've always said, as a prosecutor for 20 years, it's easy for people to stand up in court and to yell someone's guilty or innocent. But it's difficult to actually listen to the evidence and present evidence. But that's our job. And that's what you're seeing today. Evidence about why TPS should be extended. We want to raise awareness that Salvadorans have become strongly embedded in our in the United States, our society, and that they should be acknowledged for what they have become, at near perfect citizens. We want to make sure that they continue to be a part, not just of our country, but of course right here on the Central Coast of California. So I thank you. I thank all of you for being here. I thank you for your support. At this point, I think we'd be happy to take a few questions before we go into the roundtable, if anybody has any questions. But then please know that we are going to be going into a private roundtable session with recipients of TPS from El Salvador.
A comment?
Please, of course.
Thank you, Congressman. I just want to share with you, when El Salvador became independent, it petitioned the Congress of the United States to be part of the United States. This is in the 1800s. At the onset of the Second World War, El Salvador was the first country to send over 25,000 men to the Panama Canal to work, and most of them came here and to the armed forces. So they've been involved. There's a long history of El Salvador and the United States.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment.
Just a quick question. Is El Salvador the only country that has this TPS program?
No, and thank you for that question. There are actually a number of countries, Nicaragua, Honduras, Haiti, that have temporary protected status. And as we have seen recently, especially I think with Haiti, I think there's over 60,000 TPS recipients in this country. That program has actually been cut off by the administration, and they've been given notice. There are other countries that have been extended. I think Honduras has close to 58,000 residents here in our country that have TPS status. They have actually been given notice that it may be cut off, but it's actually been extended as well. And that is what we are hoping for at this point. So there are other countries as well, but what you're seeing is 200,000 Salvadorans in this country. I want to say it's the largest recipient of TPS in our nation. And that is something that basically we need to be aware of, and we need to continue to fight for because of the conditions in El Salvador, but also because of what they have become, what these people have become as part of this country.
Thank you for your testimonies. I was wondering, we don't have a spelling for Nelson on the paper. Could you give us your name, how you spell it?
M as in Mary, E as in Edward, M as in Mary, B as in boy, R as in Rose, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, O.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's all the time we have.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We will be available for side questions after. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you to the TPS recipients that are here, and of course, thank you to their family and to all of you.
If we did reach out to you ahead of time to come to the round table with Congressman Panetta, I'm going to ask that you check in with Mr. Emmanuel Garcia. Emmanuel, if you could raise your hand. If you do have an invitation to the press conference,